Hello, and welcome to Runkle of the Bailey. My name is Ian Runkle. I'm a Canadian criminal defense and firearms lawyer. Today I thought I'd tackle a question that a few people have asked me. It's not really a legal question, it's more of a law adjacent question. And that question is, how did you decide to become a lawyer? Was this something you always wanted to do or something you decided a little later on? And if so, how did you come to that decision? So I'll start out by saying I didn't always want to become a lawyer. I had different sort of thoughts, but for a large portion of my life, I didn't really know sort of what I'd end up doing or where I'd fit in. And the reason for that is that I have attention deficit disorder. This isn't something that I really keep hidden. I don't bring it up at every occasion, of course, but I've always sort of tried to be open about it because it's just part of who I am. It's part of sort of how my brain functions and how I approach the world at large. But the world at large needs certain things, it has certain expectations. And for a long time in my life, I didn't really know how to meet those expectations and to meet the needs of sort of things around me. And it took me a long time to figure that out. So I struggled all my way through high school and I struggled all my way through university, at least at the start. But I started out studying English. I decided that English literature really wasn't for me, and I moved on into psychology. And what really sort of gripped me in psychology was forensic psychology. So the application of psychology to legal issues. And there's all sorts of issues that can come up with that. Issues in terms of things like how witnesses remember things. Are witnesses good at identifying people or are they bad at it? And it turns out they're actually pretty bad at it. Eyewitness identification is something we put way too much stock in for what the science tells us it can actually deliver. But these courses were sort of what I was finding myself most interested in. And I was in one of these courses, and it was a fascinating course. It covered a whole lot of forensic psychology sorts of issues. And I was still struggling along because I just really wasn't figuring out how to get my brain to do what it needed to do. So we had a rather substantial assignment for this, and I got it in, I'm kind of embarrassed to admit, rather late. So I submitted it to the prof, it was late, and I got an email back saying, hey, would you meet me at my office to discuss your paper? And I was thinking, oh, I am in some trouble. But I went to the prof's office, and this prof, Deb Connolly, who I owe a lot to, just a lot. I really can't express, how much, but she sat me down in her office and she said, why is this paper so late? Like, what's going on? And, you know, I I didn't really feel like, sort of coming up with an excuse. That's never really been my style. When I screw up, I figure that the way to deal with that is to own it. So I sort of explained that it was just, I wanted to get the paper done. It wasn't something like, nobody died in my family or anything like that. It was just that I was struggling. I told her about my attention deficit and I said, I don't really have an excuse. This is just me. And she said, well, I kind of thought that was what was going on here. Um, have you ever considered grad school? And, grad school for psychology is really hard to get into. So I said, yeah, and I'd love to do that, but my marks are just not there. And she said, well, if you have somebody kind of pitching for you, somebody who might go to bat for you, there's a bit of wiggle room on that. So I told her what my marks were looking like, and she said, yeah, that would be a problem because, of course, you know, she has to justify any grad students to sort of, a board and so forth. She said, well, have you thought about law school? And my initial reaction was that she was a crazy person because, if my marks aren't get good enough to sort of get into grad school, how can they get me into law school? And she had a legal background herself, and she explained, they weigh the LSAT very heavily on this, and I think you could do well on the LSAT. So I encourage you to give it a try. What can it hurt? And do what you can to bring your marks up. And I thought, well, All right. So, in the sort of time I had left, I did my best to bring my marks up. I really put a lot of effort because it means something when you've got somebody who's willing to go to bat for you like that, who's willing to sort of step in. So I was able to bring those marks up substantially in my last sort of semester there. And I took the LSAT. I took it with a course. I went with test masters who I used to work for. They do good work. They haven't paid me anything for, for this. I appreciate their contribution to sort of my life story here. I did well on the LSAT and managed to apply and get in. But this is just, and I love the law. Studying at law school was a pleasure. It's always been something, the law always includes things that are just, that are fascinating. But the other thing is that it's a profession that allows me to help people out. More than anything, when I'm in law school, there's people talking about, I want to get rich and I want to do this. And my thought was always just, I want to be able to help people because we've got a flawed world and there's people who need assistance and there's people who, the law is terribly complicated and terribly difficult. So I really appreciate that moment where I can help somebody navigate this very difficult and, you know, sometimes unfriendly system. So I'm really lucky to be in a position where I can do that. But you know, I've I've always sort of been thrilled with where I've ended up. But it's one of those places where sort of looking back on my own history, uh, it's a real place where sort of my life path could have gone in a very different direction. That somebody stepped in to basically say, "I've got faith in you. I think you should, I think you should do these good things, and here's how you can do it." And it's meant everything to me. That little, I mean, when it comes down to it, it's a conversation that happened in her office. And, it changed my life. And so I really appreciate the impact that that's had. There's a few places where, people have reached out and have taken the time and have really, changed my life for the better. It could have been so much worse if it had gone in different directions. And so those moments are something that I try my best whenever I can. I try to be that person for someone else if I can. And, you never know when you try and stretch yourself and try to reach out to do that. You never know how it's going to work out. You never know if that's going to help. You never know if it's just going to be a waste of time. It might, it might even hurt. Although I feel like when you're going in with good intentions, most of the time you're going to have a positive response. But it's something that, if you can do that for one person, you've made a tremendous difference in, in somebody's life and in the world around you. And so I really appreciate that. Again, this is Deb Connolly at Simon Fraser University. Literally changed my life for the better. So I kind of wanted to share that. And, when I had people asking me this question, I was like, yeah, no, this is, I feel like it's a story worth telling. I hope it inspires other people to try to do good for somebody because it's, the world can be a fairly miserable place. It's a place, the world doesn't always have a whole lot of happiness for all the people out there. But if you can brighten somebody's world, you never know. You might do a good thing for sort of the world at large. So anyway, that's basically the story of how I decided to go into law. Was just I was studying a different area that was kind of connected to law and got guided into it. It's and I don't regret a thing. It's not, I wouldn't go back and do things differently. I feel like I am sort of where I should be. I really like sort of the world I've got around me, the world I've built for myself with help because I've had tremendous advantages. I've had tremendous people who have stepped in at various points. And so as much as I've had struggles, I've also had, people to lift me up. And that's made all the difference, just entirely. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope this story has provided some help. Um, I thought about sort of not sharing my attention deficit aspects with the channel, but ultimately, again, I feel it's important to be open about this sort of thing. Especially, there's parents out there who might be dealing with, I can't have been an easy kid, growing up for my parents because, they were sort of going, you're this smart kid. Why are you struggling so much? Why isn't this working out for you? Why, where's the disconnect? I know there's a lot of my teachers who just pulled their hair out over that, you're this smart kid, but why can't you get your homework done? Why can't you pay attention in class? So I hope that this provides maybe some hope for some of those parents. If there's anything I can do for you, drop a line. I'll try to answer questions, try to help out, try to provide sort of some of the coping strategies that have worked for me. Of course, I feel that these things are somewhat individualized, so but I'm happy to do what I can to help out. Thank you for watching. If this has been helpful to you, please like, share, and subscribe. I also want to thank my Patreon supporters. At the $50 level, DMO, People of Canada, Sir Daniel Wicks of Alberta, Canada's National Firearms Association, Toronto Airsoft, and Renji Malarkey. At the $20 level, Cameron Johnson, Kevin Fleet, and Dale Nesbitt. And at the $10 level, Ma Buddy Keith, Process Eng, Stephen Larson, General Counsel of the CCFR, John Robinson, TR, Roy Haddock, Freckles Dack, Jean-Alexandre Tessier, Sir Goat, Sights and Arms Limited, Chaba Hollow, Peter H., Craig Kwan, Akin Coxall, North Central Process Service, Toys Are for Boys, Ian Vaughn, Milan Vrekic, Terrence Griffiths, Doug Thompson, Mark D., Brad Crooker, Jason Harrington, Lee Kiso, Mark Stout, Michelle Stotzel, Scott Sweetman, Mike Rhodes, DF, Stacey Cartmel, Tactical Advantage TV Canada, Ian S., Dave Leslie, Juan, Donald Duncan, Darren Duell, Sean Crane, Ian Hutchinson, Rory, Travis, BC Bushcraft Leather, John Singarty, Misa Komarevich, All Systems Go, David Moga, Ian Hedgdanek, Hello from Venezuela, Taylor Delnea, Rod Guzman, Matthew Nesbitt, Conway Yuri, and James Cox, as well as Zip Ties and Bias Plies, who's got a hilarious channel. So thank you once again for watching. I hope this has armed you with knowledge, and I hope this inspires you to go out and, even in some small way, make the world a better place, because all we really have at the end of the day is each other and looking out for each other. So thank you once again, and have a good day, or till next time.